Welcome to the Hud Grad Club. I'm Chris Webb, and I'm the Alumni Engagement Career Consultant with the University of Huddersfield's Careers Employability Service. And, full disclosure, I'm also a University of Huddersfield graduate. So I've generally got pretty positive things to say about both the institution and any of our graduates. But don't take my word for it. In this podcast, we'll be meeting different members of the University of Huddersfield's global alumni community, finding out what makes them tick, about their experiences during their time at the university and their career journeys since completing their studies. Join us as we explore the inspiring, innovative and diverse range of individuals that make up the Hud Grad Club. Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. And Callum, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic to have you here with us. So just as a starting point, for people maybe who don't know you, you've not come across you before, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background at the university and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Callum. I graduated in 2021. My background with the university was a Bachelor of Arts in Graphic Design and Animation, and I'm currently a graphic designer at Games Workshop.
Fantastic. We're going to, I know, dip into a little bit more into your kind of current role, sort of how you got to there later in the podcast. But we start every episode, as always, with our greatest Hud story ever told section, which is quite grand sounding, but it doesn't have to be. And this is to find out a little bit more about your kind of experience with the university and any kind of key stories you might want to share from your time there. So I guess first question is, how did you sort of end up at the University of Huddersfield? How did that start?
It's a bit weird because through college, I kind of was very torn. I did a game design BTEC, so it wasn't always graphic design was never my first love really through college until I realized that graphic design was the only bit of game design that I actually enjoyed doing, at which point I was like, oh, maybe I should become a graphic designer. And my dad had gone to Huddersfield to do his either marketing or law degree. I always get them mixed up, but it's one of the two. And yeah, we basically came for a look around, and I remember going to Storps Hall and looking around there on a bus on my own actually, and doing like because it had the Storps bus running on a tour loop for all of the parents and prospective students. We looked around the uni, so they had like everything was ticking my boxes in terms of like printers, and they had like Macs there if you didn't have your own Mac and things like that, and everything just kind of lined up. And I think it was the big gleaming gold, we're the first in the country in arts or something like that they had like vinyled onto the wall as I walked in. I was like, no, okay, yeah, you've sold me. Can't say no to that.
It's funny what can be a tipping point, isn't it? Yeah,
it really is. Yeah. It was just like, okay, yeah, sure. So then I leapt with it, and here we are. It was a great 3 years of my life.
Yeah, the rest is history, as they say.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
You talked about obviously being a really good 3 years of your life. Any kind of best stories or key stories you'd want to share, or key memories, I guess, from your time at the university?
I mean, there are a lot of key memories. None of them are really PC for the most part. So we'll try.
We'll keep it as PC as possible.
Yeah. So I vividly remember in second year, I was a block rep for Storps Hall. I'm not saying Storps Hall is the best accommodation in Huddersfield. There are many others. There are many others. I don't get any cuts or anything like that from how many times I say it. But in second year, I was a block rep. So that meant that I got a huge discount in rent. I think like my final term rent was like 81 quid, but you basically had to work hours throughout the year with events and stuff. So I did loads of DJing. I taught myself how to DJ over first year and into second year. And then in second year refreshers, we had a silent disco, and it was like a nice, really big gazebo tent in the back of the venue, the little bar that we've got on site. And I just remember like the whole room listening to my headphone color, which was red. And then the guy who actually owned the DJ company that had like the blue headset on. And he just looked at me and was just like, come on, man. Like, this was meant to be my night. And the entire room is red. And I'm there just playing like cheesy hit after cheesy hit. Just like, yes, this is amazing. And yeah, that is definitely a pinnacle highlight of mine, because at that point I was like, I don't think I'll beat this for a long time. Just seeing this whole room just being like, yes, yes, I love this.
Oh, that's great. Did you get into kind of DJing when you were at university? Were you did it beforehand, or was that?
Yeah, no. I've always loved music. Music's been like a really big part of my life. And then I remember meeting a lad at Stoves Hall who was DJing, and he had the decks and he had the CDJs and the like fairly good setup. And he kind of got me into it, taught me how to do it. And then from there, I kind of just self-taught. I remember going back home to Burnley one random weekend to do like a DJ workshop with some like drum and bass DJs that were quite big in the scene. Yeah, it was like just kind of a snowball effect, because at uni you've got so much spare time, and I was like, well, why don't I use this time that I'm clearly not using for my work to learn stuff? So
we should disclaimer that, shouldn't we?
Definitely, yeah. Like, do your work first. Do your work first.
Like,
especially in first year, your workload in comparison is quite light. So give yourself that chance to, like, you know, just kind of experiment with maybe new hobbies, new skills. Like, I spent a lot of time teaching myself loads of new skills to do with graphic design that the uni weren't necessarily asking me to do, but I wanted to pursue in order to kind of get one up on anybody else. It's quite selfish, but just try and get one up on people whenever you can in terms of skills and leveling yourself up. So yeah, I just did that in terms of social life. DJing really helped me with that, because I made friends with all the local DJs in like all the clubs and stuff, and then that led to me getting loads of free music, so I didn't have to spend 10 grand on music because I had it all there from those guys. And then from that, my social life kind of blew up as well, because I'd get talking to more groups, more people, things like that. So yeah, it's always really good, but I definitely suggest to push yourself out and kind of just explore maybe hobbies that you wouldn't necessarily think you'd be doing.
What was you saying? You know, those extracurriculars can be such a massive benefit to your career development, can't they? Even if you don't
100%.
think that at the time. I mean, you've joked there obviously about your kind of degree and kind of underplaying it, but of course you are still doing something connected to that now. So this is probably a really good opportunity for us to dig a little bit more into your career journey. I mean, I guess maybe we sort of start, talking about the degree. So I mean, as you mentioned, you kind of worked out graphic design as sort of the part, maybe game design, that you like the most.
Yeah.
What did you kind of get from the degree itself? So what sort of things did you take away from the degree that have then, I guess, led into the type of stuff you do now?
The biggest one that Huddersfield had to drill into me, because I had a short spell of like a 2 or 3 month work experience in an agency in Burnley. And from that agency, they drilled in, we need to get from A to B, we need something to come out of it, and it needs to look nice. And then that'll be happy. Everyone will be happy. We'll all be fine. And I remember in first year, I was doing a brief that I ended up calling Escape or something. It was like Escape to the Countryside. I remember my tutor turning around and just looking me dead in the eye. And I was like, right, I've got this map. I want to work this map into it because it's important to the brief. My tutor just looked me dead in the eye and she just went, just rip it up. And I was like, why? He's like, just rip it up, see what happens. And I'm there thinking logically, like, well, I'm going to have a broken map, aren't I? Like, nothing's going to come from it. But it was this whole experimentation of, well, see what happens. And it genuinely took me 3 years to fully understand like what they meant by this experiment. Because all through those 3 years, I was like, well, if I break my map, I'm going to have a broken map and nothing more. And plus side, I can't use my map anymore. So I was just like, but I've paid money for this map and I don't want to break it. So yeah, experimentation is a huge one. I mean, the classic is probably meeting deadlines, even though it's always a last minute bash, but please don't do that. Work to your deadlines. Trust me, it's not worth it.
We recognise people are individuals here. So
yeah, it's genuinely not worth it. Like, I remember there were quite a few times in the Stoves Hall study room of just like staying up till 2 a.m. the night before, and you're like, oh, that 3-hour hand-in is getting eerily close right now. But you always get there because you're just so full of adrenaline, and somehow this like creativity just floods your brain, and you're like, okay, I'm either meeting this or I'm not. And I think that's another really great lesson, is when it gets to the biting point, you either get it or you don't. And it was nice to have the tutor support there, but at the same time, there is a big essence of, you're an adult now, You've got your own deadlines to make. We're not going to hold your hand and give you the answers. You do need to figure this out yourself, no matter what it is. You know, it could be a logo, or it could be, do I want to pick color A or color B? And if you're a very procrastinating creative like I am, it might sound stupid, but picking between colors A and color B could be like the world's biggest problem to you in that moment of time. So yeah, it was always really funny to kind of be like, please, just, I need the answer. Don't tell me to go and experiment. Just tell me which one you like more. But it's never about that. It's always about your own personal choices, because at the end of the day, they want it to come from you. So yeah, those, I've probably waffled a lot, but those are probably
no. I mean,
my lessons on what I've picked up.
No, I mean, that's great. And obviously, you know, as you said, that's kind of had that impact then since graduating. And you said, you know, 2021 graduate, so still fairly kind of recent.
Yeah.
What's that sort of transition been like for you, you know, going from kind of student to becoming a graduate? And where's that journey led you to where you are now?
See, it's always been really weird, because I've been freelancing pretty much since I left college. I mean, the first branding, I'm not talking like Coca-Cola, like the first branding I did was for a local market stall in Burnley Market. And I'm pretty sure I did a full brand for 20 quid and free food for life. And I'm pretty sure the free food for life lasted about a month.
I was going to say, you still getting that? Or?
No, I definitely got cut off after about a month, because he clocks on as to, I take free food for life as free food for life. I was like, breakfast, lunch, dinner, let's go. So yeah, just the freelancing side of things really helped me with the transition of, oh, okay, well, I kind of expect what clients ask me to do. So I can go from that, take the massive amount of excess time that I had at uni that I'd work on freelancing alongside hobbies and other interests, and kind of just flipped it in my brain as to, oh, okay, well, I'm not freelancing anymore because I'm employed, but this is my thinking time for graphic design. And then my downtime is my downtime now. It's not my extra work time. So it probably isn't as harsh as a lot of other people. But I found it quite nice. I mean, I had the summer off after finishing uni. I stayed with my girlfriend because she was doing a master's. So we stayed on in her student house over the summer. And then I went home and found myself a job. So I highly suggest taking your time with it. Don't rush. I felt pressured because there are a few people in my course that instantly was like 1 foot out the door and already in the door at a job. And I saw that. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm behind. Like, I'm behind, you know, and don't do that. It's fine.
Like, and what's that, the job that you're in now? Was that the first job you moved on to after graduating?
No. I wish, geez, if I was straight out of uni and into Games Workshop, that would have been mind-blowing. No, I had, it was a nice little agency in Burnley that I had my first job at, and I learned quite a lot of things, especially in terms of client relations and office relations and dynamics within an office that I'd not quite picked up on before. And it also taught me quite a lot about my own self-worth. And even though I'd only been out of uni for like 6 months at this point, I was already in the mindset of, I'm not a junior anymore. I already was just leaps and bounds ahead of maybe where the junior side of the graphic design job role was kind of putting me into. And I was like, oh, I can do better than this. You know, I can push myself. I can start looking for a real graphic designer, not a junior. I'm not saying that juniors aren't real, but you get what I mean? Like,
yeah, you wanted to challenge yourself.
Exactly.
More responsibility and more stuff.
So I started looking, and I was like, okay, well, let's challenge myself. Let's get more into it. Let's like really try and sink my teeth into somewhere nice. But at the same time, I was also kind of in the mindset of, okay, well, I've got a job, so I don't have the pressure of needing to find it right here, right now. Let's look for somewhere that I'd like to work rather than somewhere that I have to work. And I think that is the biggest advice I can give to anyone is, if you can find a job that you love in a place that you love, it won't be work anymore. Like, I get up at 6:30 in the morning now, and I get into work for about 7:15. You'll ask anyone in my family, I've never woken up before like 9:15 in my life. Like, it is just a write-off. Like, weekends used to be a 10, 10:30 wake up and just pajama days all day. And the fact that I like actively love the job, and I'm like, oh, I wake up with ideas in my head of, right, okay, this is what I need to get done today, and not in a, oh my god, this is what I need to get done today. It's, oh, these creative ideas that have been like biting at me for weeks. I've got the idea, I've got the answer. You go in, crack on with it, and you just blow up.
So, I mean, tell us a little bit more about that then, the role with Games Workshop, I guess, how it came about, and and why you chose to go for it, why you chose to work for them, because it's obviously something that's really kind of motivating you.
Yeah, it was a really strange one. So I had this like little inner dilemma of, oh, I'm not where I think I should be, so let's push myself. So I just started going on LinkedIn, and I literally just went on LinkedIn, put all the job adverts up of like telling me notifications of who's doing what. And to be honest, I never instantly thought, let's work for Games Workshop. If I wouldn't have seen the LinkedIn advert, seeing the advertisement, I probably wouldn't be here. But yeah, it's kind of a weird, the universe has set it into place, right space, right time sort of thing. It was very, I was like, oh, that's cool, I'll do that. And then I looked through the criteria of what they wanted, and I was like, yeah, I can definitely do that. And then took it one step further and started reading through the recruitment process. And one of the sections was add a video. And I was like, okay, well, that's a little bit different. I mean, I'm guessing they probably might have a few people that send in videos, but my initial thought of it was, oh, they'll probably do this as an accessibility point of view of like, if you're not comfortable with writing out a, cover letter plus a full CV, why not just say it to a camera? So even though I was, had the cover letter, had the CV to hand, I thought, hell, let's do it. So I did a video. I really tried as hard as I could to professionally edit it. I chucked their logo into it. I chucked my logo on it. I did transitions between all the different questions, and I nitpicked the questions out of the criteria that they'd given me. And to this day, even though it's only been like 4 or 5 months, the manager that hired me still turns around and says that is the best application he's ever seen. He looked at that video and instantly was like, yep, I want that lad. Because he could see my energy, he could see my passion. And even though I didn't have a foggiest about a lot of what GW do, I just had that kid excitement in me of like a kid in a sweet shop almost, of like, oh my God, this is like the coolest thing in the world. And he was like, yeah, that's what we want. So it was literally just all from one LinkedIn advert. And I was like, yep, that's cool. And then all you need to do is just try and put in, it's really hard. It took me 3 applications for me backing and forthing of, do I want to do this video or not? And I literally uploaded and deleted my application 3 times before the 3rd one actually had the video on it. And I was like, yep, I'm leaving it, it's staying there. The rest is with God, so to speak.
Well, that's great evidence, isn't it, of the benefit of taking that tailored approach. When you've got something that you're really into, you're not kind of leaving anything to chance. You're saying, Joe, I'm going to leave it all out there, as you say.
100%. If they ask for a video, send them a video. It doesn't have to be as tailored as what I have to admit, it was very extravagant as to how I went about it, but literally just show that you have the extra little bit of energy. Because think about it, a manager is going to read hundreds of cover letters of CVs a day, especially if it's a massive company. They're just going to be smashing through it. And if it's just same old, even for a graphic designer, think of how many beautifully designed CVs they're going to receive and portfolios. Just try and just get that, like I said before, just the one up on skills of just a little bit of a video. Or if you're not comfortable doing a video, just record a voice note of the top 10 things about you, or something like that. Just something that
animation, or
100%. Yeah, 100%. But it could literally just be you sat in your bedroom. I've had another interview that I unfortunately didn't get the job for, but I got extremely close, and they ended up offering me another job in the process of going for the one that I tried to go for. And again, I uploaded a video for that, but it was literally just me sat in my bedroom talking. There wasn't that much to it, and that was enough to get me past first and second screening before to then be invited to a video interview. So yeah, definitely. I think just try and go, even if they don't ask for it, I would personally say just do, even if it's very like regimented, and it's the same, and you just send it to like 10 companies. But it is a little bit better when it's tailored towards the company, especially it makes you stand out and it makes
As
you
you
care.
say, yeah, that's it, to distinguish yourself. I mean, this is all really good advice. We are going to come on to your
Sorry, I'm
final underrated careers
skipping
advice
way ahead.
at some point. But before we do that, I think probably just makes sense to kind of tie up your career
Sure.
journey today with a bit more information about the current role. So, I mean, you put
Yeah.
so much work into getting this role with Games Workshop. What's it like, and why is it kind of prompting you to be up at 6:30 every day?
It's amazing, genuinely. Basically, Games Workshop are a tabletop company, so they do models, and you buy these models, you paint them up, and then you play with them on the tabletop with dice, and they're all dice-based games. And then that license gets licensed out to video games and third parties like Creative Assembly, who do Total War. Fat Shark Games are about to release Dark Tide, which is a huge hit among the fans, which we're really glad to see, because it's such a niche market, and GW own that market. Like, when people ask, like, oh, like, who are your competitors? We don't have an answer. We are fighting ourselves to better ourselves, to keep the crown on our heads. And there are a few companies, don't get me wrong, that do other tabletop games, but I'm not being funny. They don't have warehouses in like Australia and Memphis and like Nottingham and a worldwide distribution.
And the quality is known, isn't it? It's a well-known kind of quality of
100%.
product. And
You're definitely, as much as you are with Adidas and Nike, you're buying the brand as much as you are the product and what we offer. So that is what I do. I do the boxes, the books, think of anything printed. So your cards, anything like that, that'll all go through a graphic designer's hands. It's quite funny because we all kind of have a little joke in the team of, we don't ever really create anything. We're taking the writer's writing, we're taking the artist's art, and we're merging it together and making this beautiful end product with everyone else's input. But at the same time, we are kind of creating it, but we're also taking, there's so many cogs in the machine. And it's kind of hard sometimes to kind of take a step back and go, oh, actually, you know what? It's up to me now to turn this machine on and get this end product over the finish line. So that is what I do. It's graphic design with amazing deadlines, because the company is a well-oiled machine at this point. They've been going for many, many moons. And it is within a genre and a niche that I can get excited about every morning. So yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, it's so good to hear kind of about your career journey. And as you say, I think, the advice you kind of gave earlier around, when you find that kind of organization that you want to work for, you believe in what they're doing, obviously it just increases that motivation for work. And it's quite a good point, I think, to kind of, for us to finish that section, segue nicely into the final section, our underrated careers advice, because I know you've got some kind of key things, additional advice to share. So what would you kind of, I guess, want to share with any sort of current students or current graduates from the university in terms of your sort of underrated careers advice from your experience so far?
Strive for it is the easiest one. Even if I didn't think I was going to get the GW job, my dad, who I've run CVs through for many, many years of, please keep proofread this, make this better for me. He turned around and was like, I don't want to help you with this, because I want it to come from you. And I think that's a quite an important thing of, as much as you can get other people to proofread and try and help you out, it needs to be organic and it needs to come from you. And that's what I learned from applying for this job. And my dad was genuinely turned around to me after I got it and went, I'm not going to lie to you, Callum. Didn't think you'd get that, but well done. It was almost like a really weird, thanks. Like, okay, you kind of didn't believe him. You kind of hoped.
Backhanded compliment.
Yeah. But at the same time, it was actually like quite a fulfilling moment, because I was like, oh wow, like, oh, my dad genuinely, I've outblown expectations from everybody here. And the other thing is, I have a quote from Thomas Jefferson. It's very cheesy, but it lives rent-free in my head. It's not very inclusive, so I apologize in advance, but we've got to kind of remember the time of when it came from. But it says, nothing can stop the man with the right mental attitude from achieving his goal. Nothing on earth can help the man with the wrong mental attitude. And I think it's just such a great summary of the recruitment process and trying to transition, because if you have the mental attitude of I am getting a job, you'll get a job eventually. It might not be the job or a job that you've just applied for, but you throw enough darts at the dartboard and eventually one will stick. And I think it's a really nice, just fulfilling quote, because it's like, you control how you perceive the world. And I'm very holistic, and I love to kind of dig into psychotherapy and things like that. And it's all very much the same thing of, okay, well, if you have a positive outlook, sure, life might be bad, but if you have a positive outlook on your personal goals and your personal progression, chances are something will fall into your lap that you might not otherwise have noticed if you were in the mindset of, I'm never going to get a job, nothing's coming my way. And then when stuff does come your way, you're like, no, nothing's coming my way. I can't see any of that. I'm just in my own little bubble of sadness. And it's really hard to pop that bubble. Don't get me wrong. I've been stuck in that bubble for a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you pop it, it is the most freeing thing in the world.
And it's been open. I think what you're saying there, isn't it? It's being open to those opportunities when they come up. It's something we talk a lot about as a careers service, things like planned happenstance, being in the position to take opportunities as they come up. But those two bits of advice, both the one you mentioned earlier and this one, actually complement each other quite well, because we often talk to kind of students and graduates about, don't necessarily scattergun applications, because, it can be very demoralizing to send out loads and loads of applications. But as you say, there's almost that balance between, you can tailor stuff, but also don't approach every application as if it's the end of the world if you don't get it, because the process of going through it is going to give you something that you can take on to the next one.
It is the biggest mind draining thing in the world, I think, is just constant. Like, the worst is when you don't hear back, because you're almost in a, oh God, they can't even be bothered to message me back and say that I've not got the job. And it's really, really soul destroying. But like you said, just tailor it enough that you feel like you've put enough energy into it that you don't necessarily need it to pay off, if that makes sense. You're not burning yourself out with every application, you just kind of, okay, I understand what your brief is, here's my tailored CV, next. And even if it's one a week, you like you said, you don't want to scattergun them out and shoot them all out and be like, right, okay, I've sent out 50 applications in a day. If none of this works, that's me done. It's like, you've got to really just find your pace.
Absolutely. And I think, that's a great point to finish on, is what you mentioned earlier around actually, don't invest so much in that first job being the final step and, feeling as though you've got to have it all figured out. Because as you said, sometimes those things will end up like it did with your current role. It appears on LinkedIn, you take a punt at it, and these things can work out. Sometimes they don't, but at least you've got to be prepared to be able to take those opportunities.
And I think the last little additional bit, onto that, is just, don't be afraid to quit your job. If you genuinely feel like you need to move on, do it. You don't have to stay a year at your job in order for that job to be valid on your CV. I think that's the biggest thing I learned as well, is that it's like, right, okay, I'm ready to move on. And then my entire family around me were like, all like very teacher based. So they were like, no, you must stay the academic year to put it on your CV, and that level of like mentality. And I was like, no, I'm done. I want to move on. And just do it, just really try. And if you need the change. But if you've invested a lot of years into a company and you need a change, likelihood is you might need the change. So it goes both ways,
Great, I know, brilliant insights.
Sorry, constantly
not at all. No, great to kind of hear all of that. And I think, I'm sure lots of recent graduates will be watching that, really interested in what you've had to say. If people want to kind of get in touch with you off the back of the episode, what's the best place to find you? If people want to maybe
so you happily message me on LinkedIn. I'm in the Huddersfield alumni LinkedIn page, and I'm sure it'll pop up on the screen in a second. And up in the top corner somewhere. And probably Instagram is the other one. I do have a design Instagram that I check, but honestly, LinkedIn, I'm not a very active LinkedIn person, but I'll check it once a week, and if anyone has any burning questions that they need answered, I'm hopefully sure that I'll get to you soon enough that I can help out.
Just got to catch you at the right time. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, catch them while it's hot.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Callum, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for joining us, becoming another member of the Hud Grad Club. And yeah, we wish you best of luck with everything else moving forward.
No worries. Cheers, Chris. All right, you too.
All the best.
Bye.
Enjoyed the podcast? Then go to the University of Huddersfield YouTube channel for all of our future episodes. Subscribe, like, and don't forget to hit the bell button for notifications. If you'd like to be involved in the Hud Grad Club podcast moving forward, please get in touch with us on alumni@hud.ac.uk.